What's good, guys? Fantasy Joe back here with my running back rankings part 2. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Already posted part 1 of the running backs. Going to be posting both parts of my wide receivers coming up soon. Players I target in every draft, sleepers, fantasy football profiles. All the information you need to dominate your friends and family in fantasy football is right here. So hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and if you have any questions or comments, drop them in the comment section down below. It really helps out the algorithm. And let's hop into these running back rankings part 2. Okay, so if you have questions about the first 10 guys, we covered those already in part 1, so check that video out if you haven't. So we're going to be starting here with James Cook at number 11, and I ended the last video saying I think I'd honestly swap Pachecho and James Cook. I still believe that's true. I probably have James Cook as my 10th, Pachecho as my 11th ranked running back right now. But we're going to be talking James Cook today. So Cook last season played in 17 games, 237 carries, 1,122 rushing yards, only 2 rushing touchdowns. He caught 44 passes for 445 yards and 4 receiving touchdowns. So that's 10.1 per reception, which is a great number for a running back. So Cook last year was finally utilized at a high level the way he should be, especially over the second half of the season. Now, they bring in Ray Davis from Kentucky. I do think he's going to get work. He's a little bit of a bigger back, could be the guy at the goal line. But James Cook, make no doubt about it, is the best running back on this roster. I think that offense is going to run differently this season. And I believe James Cook's a dynamic talent at the running back position. He's top 10 in talent for sure for me at RB right now in the entire NFL. So when you combine that, I think he's going to be utilized in both the passing game, the running game, and I believe he's an extreme talent on a good offense that's going to need him. I really believe in James Cook. Like I said, the thing that brings him down to me is the goal line work. If I knew he was going to be the goal line running back for the Buffalo Bills, and Ray Davis wasn't going to be in that role, Josh Allen wasn't going to steal 10 to 15 or something like that, I think James Cook would easily be, maybe the 6th running back I have in my rankings. But since you take that goal line ability out, lower him down slightly, but he's still an explosive player who can catch the ball, so there's a lot of things I like about James Cook. Moving on to Josh Jacobs. Jacobs signed with the Green Bay Packers, signed a nice contract as well, got some good guaranteed money. It's basically a kind of a year-to-year deal, but this last year he struggled in 13 games, 233 carries, 805 yards, 3.5 yards per carry, not very good at all. And he caught 37 passes for 296 receiving yards, 8 per catch, which is, again, a good number. He had 6 rushing touchdowns total, 6 total touchdowns as well. Josh Jacobs, I think it'll benefit him greatly being in this Packers offense. I think a lot of the wear we saw last year, I think sitting out of training camp certainly played a role. I also think just the offense and offensive line being worse played a massive role as well. I think you put Josh Jacobs in a good offense with Jordan Love, a great offensive line that the Packers have. I think he is going to be good. Now, 2 years ago when he led the league in rushing with 340 carries, I don't see that happening either. The Packers have always been a team that tried to utilize 2 backs, keep that franchise, that bell cow RB1 type guy, keep him healthy and cruising for the playoffs. I believe it'll be just the same with Josh Jacobs. So I think he'll be around 250 carries, maybe, catching probably 30, 40 passes. So the touches are going to be down, which is why I think Josh Jacobs is a little bit lower on my list, but I still think he's a good player. I think that offense is good. It should generate more scoring opportunities for him and just open up more holes. All around, it's a better situation for Jacobs for sure, but I don't think he's going to be that same workhorse that he was in past years with the Raiders in Green Bay. Still think he's going to be the lead back for sure, but just some things to consider. And I think Marshawn Lloyd, the running back they drafted in the 3rd round this year, is very talented and is going to be on the field right away. All right, moving on to my number 13 running back, Kenneth Walker. Now, Walker this last year had a good year considering where he was drafted especially. So he had 219 carries, 905 rushing yards, 8 rushing touchdowns. Caught 29 passes for 259 yards and 1 score through the air. So these numbers are a little worse when you compare them to his year 1, playing the same amount of games, slightly fewer carries. Coming into the last year, a lot of the worry around Walker was with Zach Charbonnet, that he is going to steal the work. Kenneth Walker was still the lead back in this team by a mile. Charbonnet struggled. I expect Kenneth Walker to be the guy moving forward. I think he's a home run hitter. We're talking about, Josh Jacobs and the workload he's going to share. I don't see Kenneth Walker sharing much at all. Obviously, Charbonnet is going to be on the field, but I think this is going to be Kenneth Walker's role. He's the back on this team. Might give up some third downs, but other than that, he's going to be that first and second down guy. Catch and pass for you on third down as well. And he's, like I said, extremely explosive. He hits the line of scrimmage. If there's a hole there, he hits it going full blast. He's like a ball shot out of a cannon. He's a cannonball. But yeah, I really like the talent of Kenneth Walker, where he's currently going drafts like that 4th round, basically. I am all over that. I'll snag that value up every day of the week. And speaking of value, this next guy we have up is another great value. David Montgomery had a good year this last year. I believe he finished as a top 10 running back. Only played in 14 games, 219 carries, 1,015 rushing yards, 13 scores on the ground, and caught 16 passes for 117 receiving yards. I think he is going to be used similar in that Mark Ingram role we saw the Saints utilize when they had Alvin Kamara heading into year 2. They saw how talented he was. I think the Lions are a similar boat with Gibbs. But they paid Montgomery. I don't see them just going to stop using him anytime soon. He's going to be that first and second down back. He's going to be that goal line guy. And I just think he's going to be a great value. This is a guy going around 5, 6 in some drafts. If David Montgomery is my RB2, I feel pretty solid about it. It's not, my favorite position, but that means I've got, one stud running back, and I couldn't be able to stack up some great pass catchers or a good quarterback. And like I said, I'm perfectly comfortable doing that. I think David Montgomery is being criminally underdrafted, and he's going to continue to produce for fantasy football. Even if it's not the same way, the same veracity that he did last year, he's still going to be a good player. Moving on, Achane. He was a good player this last season, especially on a per-touch basis. He was basically historic. Only 103 carries, 103 carries on the ground, 800 rushing yards. That's good for 7.8 yards per attempt, which is insane. Literally more than double Josh Jacobs, just to put that in perspective. Now, do I see these numbers continuing? Absolutely not. But it shows the explosiveness that he possesses, the role that he fills in this offense, that he can succeed, and he's proved that. And he should get a bigger role moving into this next season. So Achane, I believe in him less than a lot of these other guys. A round 2 pick is too early for me. Even like the beginning of round 3, I think I would probably pass. But if you're telling me I could get him back to the 3rd round, I would absolutely do that. But a lot of times when I'm there, I could get something like a James Cook, and I'd rather have James Cook than Achane ahead of this next season. Next up, we've got Rachaad White. White this last year had a really, really good year. The thing with Rachaad White that I always think about is just a lot of his numbers have not been that good, honestly. His efficiency numbers, he's basically just been the only show in town. But like this last year, 272 carries, but he averaged 3.6 yards per attempt, which is criminal. We were talking about Jacobs struggling, averaging 3.5. But at least the year before, he was good. Jacobs averaged like 4.6 the year before. The year before, Rachaad White averaged 3.7. So you could argue it's the offensive line. You could argue it's him. But for 2 years in a row, he's been well under 4 yards a carry. He's got a ton of volume, caught 64 passes this last year. That is what gets the job done for him. Basically, he's out there. He gets 272 carries, catches 60-plus balls. It hasn't been efficiency. It's just been volume. Volume is king in fantasy football, and it looks like he's going to continue to get that role. But that's why I have him a little farther down the list. He scares me. I'd rather take a chance on someone I think is more talented than just the guy getting the role. Because at any point, one of the young players that they sign on their team could just emerge, start averaging 4.2 yards a carry, which isn't even that crazy by any means. And all of a sudden, they're dramatically better in efficiency basis than Rachaad White. He doesn't have that same role. And he's no longer who you want to be starting in fantasy football. Again, it's not that I think that's going to happen. It's just I do think there are a lot of other players who are more talented than him being drafted in the same range. Okay, next player up, we've got Raheem Mostert. This guy is being criminally underdrafted. This last year, he's finished the RB2, 209 carries, 1,012 rushing yards, 18 scores on the ground, caught 25 passes, and 3 scores through the air. Guy's an absolute stud. If you drafted him, I took him a lot in best ball leagues, won me a ton of leagues. Again, he's going the 5th, 6th round. This is a guy you draft, and you just keep it moving. Like Achane is, let's say Achane is the guy there. Still, there's 200-something carries that he's going to get, that Mostert will likely get, and that's very similar to the role he had last year. I still think he'll be the goal line back as well, and that's where we saw him shine this last year. Rhamondre Stevenson coming off a rough season, but I do think he just got an extension. Well, I know he got an extension. I think he's still going to be the center point of this offense, the focal point. And I think he's a talented football player. I think he's a good player on the ground running the ball. I think he's a good pass catcher. He's got good pass pro. There's really no reasons to take him off the field. They bring in Antonio Gibson. I don't see Antonio Gibson stealing a whole lot of work from Rhamondre Stevenson, especially considering the financial commitment the Patriots have made to Stevenson. So, yeah, he's a good bet for me heading into this next year. I really liked him heading into year 2 where he shined, and I think he's another value again. Next up, we got Aaron Jones. He really ended the year on a great streak. Showed, was banged up early in the year, but showed all the things that he could do. Heads to a new offense now in Minnesota. But I still think he can get it done, especially if he's the guy there. If you told me Aaron Jones gets 250 carries this year and catches 35-plus passes, I would bet that he's a top 15 running back in fantasy football. I still think he can do that even though he's a little older. Now, with a rookie quarterback and some of these other things, even though I think the offensive line is good, the skill players around him are good, the rookie quarterback's not bad, a lot of these things are pointing in the right direction. Still a rookie signal caller, which is going to hurt the offense overall when you're just comparing it to a lot of these other units. Moving on to the rest of our guys, DeAndre Swift at 20. He had a great year this last year in Philly, and I think he'll be even more of a vocal point on this offense. Speaking of rookie quarterbacks with Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears, I think he's going to be the lead back on this team. I think he's a good running back. I think he's explosive on the ground. I think he's dynamic through the air, and he's going to get the ball a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if a Roschon Johnson or another back that they have is giving him some work on first and second down. But I still think DeAndre Swift is the back you want to own. I think he's undervalued currently. We can get him. 21, Alvin Kamara. The upside might not still be there. Well, he could still finish as a top 10 running back, but you're not going to have that same Alvin Kamara upside you used to have. But Derek Carr loves to check the ball down to this guy. And if he keeps doing that, he's going to keep scoring points for fantasy football. 22, Zamir White. White this last year, towards the end of the year, kind of got that Josh Jacobs role for a few games, and he played really well. With the current depth chart, you have to project him to get that role again this next year, and if he does, any type of back with that type of volume should be good. Like I said, the offensive line's not great there. The quarterback situation's rocky, but that just gives you more reasons to hand the ball off to Zamir White. 23, Austin Eckler. This guy's very interesting to me because I think, honestly, last year he was just mainly banged up. He is an older running back, so, you never know when those wheels have just fallen off and when you'll be left holding that bag. But if you told me that I believe he'll be the lead back in Washington, I don't think he'll get as many goal line opportunities as he had with the Chargers, but he should still catch passes. He should still be a really good running back, and he should be the lead back on that team. Obviously, they have Brian Robinson there as well, but I think Eckler is going to get enough carries to be successful, and I think he'll take over that third down role easily. 24, Gus Edwards, 13 touchdowns on the ground last year with the Baltimore Ravens. I expect him to be the lead back of the Chargers this year. We were just talking about that goal line role. Now with Jim Harbaugh, that role is probably even more valuable. I expect him to run the rock quite a bit. They went out and traded Keenan Allen, cut Mike Williams, so they've really changed their offense and the players that they have. So I expect them to need to lead on the run. They've got a lot of young pass catchers, so I think Gus Edwards is going to be heavily utilized. 25, Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren's the back I want to own in Pittsburgh this year. I just think he's a good player. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are coming around on that fact as well, and that makes me want to invest in Warren. And you can get him just so late. I think him and Najee are going to get similar volume. I think Warren's a better player. 26, James Conner. Talk about a guy that's been successful in fantasy football these last several years. Just has shined, and whenever he's on the field, I still think he has that. I think he'd be a lot higher on this list, probably in the 18, somewhere in there. But they did draft Trey Benson. He's a good back. He's young, and I expect his role to improve as the season goes on. But James Conner should have a great start to the year. And 27, I got Tyjae Spears. I really like Tyjae Spears, his talent, and I think he's going to beat out Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard's a back that, he might have been injured last year, but if he was, I was thoroughly unimpressed with the way that he played. And I think Tyjae Spears is a good young running back that's just hungrier than Pollard and is going to shine this season. I think he's going to get a lot more of the role than people realize. And this is a guy going late in drafts that you can absolutely get now and capitalize on. Alrighty, if you guys have made it to this point in the video, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section down below. Let me know who missed the list and who should have made it, who should have been higher, all that good stuff. Let me know. It really helps out the video. And like I said, I'll respond to all the comments. Stick around for wide receivers, top 10, and wide receivers part 2. And like I said, players to target in every draft, fantasy football profiles, all the good stuff, sleepers, bust, values, everything you need is all right here on Fantasy Joe. So hit that subscribe button, stick around, and I'll see you guys.